When you hear something like this, you feel bad because he accepted accountability for it.
Paul George has been hit with a 25-game ban for taking a banned substance. But there's more to the story that nobody's talking about. Rumor has it the FBI is involved in one of the biggest NBA scandals ever, connecting an active head coach, a current player, and 4 mafia families. Officials say this is only the beginning, that on January 31st, 2026, the NBA shocked everyone. Philadelphia 76ers forward Paul George, a 9-time All-Star and one of the best two-way players of a generation, earning $51.7 million this season, was suspended 25 games without pay for breaking the NBA's anti-drug rules. There were no warnings, no leaks, nothing, just a short, cold statement from a league. The NBA didn't say which substance was involved, as they usually don't. The suspension means he can't play until March 25th, 2026, leaving him eligible for only the last 10 regular season games. This puts the Sixers in a tough spot during a playoff race. But Paul George didn't stay quiet. Hours later, he released a statement to ESPN, explaining his side and shifting the conversation in a direction nobody expected.
Paul George also released a statement about it, saying, "Over the past few years, I've discussed the importance of mental health, and in the course of recently seeking treatment for an issue of my own, I made the mistake of taking an improper medication. I take full responsibility for my actions and apologize to the Sixers organization, my teammates, and the Philly fans for my poor decision making during this process. I am focused on using this time to make sure that my mind and body are in the best condition to help the team when I return."
Paul George says mental health was behind his suspension. And this isn't someone who just started talking about it. He's been openly advocating for mental health for years. Back in 2020, George was one of the first NBA stars to speak about his anxiety during the NBA bubble, when isolation and pressure pushed players to their limits. In 2022, he went further, partnering with BetterHelp to donate up to $3 million in free therapy, working with athletes like Venus Williams to break the stigma around getting help. He even wrote an op-ed in USA Today, admitting he used to feel invincible before realizing he needed professional support. So, when George says his suspension is tied to mental health treatment, there's a real track record behind it. This isn't just talk. Under the NBA's drug policy, Article 63 of the Collective Bargaining Agreement, a 25-game suspension usually means a first-time offense for certain prohibited substances. It's different from marijuana, which is no longer tested for, and different from repeat violations, which carry harsher penalties, 55 games for a second offense, and a lifetime ban for a third. Experts think Paul George's suspension probably involves a therapeutic medication, like an antidepressant, anti-anxiety, or ADHD drug that has a banned ingredient. Players can apply for a therapeutic use exemption if they tell the league in advance, but George didn't do that, and that small administrative mistake ended up costing him big time. The financial impact was huge. George lost roughly $1.7 million, or about $469,692 per game, from the second year of his $212 million contract with the 76ers. That's a massive amount of money gone instantly. But here's the twist. The lost salary actually helped the Sixers financially. ESPN analyst Bobby Marks pointed out that the suspension gave the team over $5 million in luxury tax relief, putting them just $1.3 million over the tax threshold. This could give the team room to make trades at the deadline without messing up the roster. In fact, the Sixers might even benefit financially from the suspension. On the court, the impact was noticeable but manageable. With George this season, the Sixers were 16-11, and without him, they went 11-10. George was averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds, and nearly 4 assists, shooting 38.2% from 3. He was a key floor spacer, making the offense flow alongside Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Without him, spacing tightens and driving lanes get harder to find. As Stephen A. Smith put it, the team faces a real dilemma, but it's not impossible to survive this challenge.
If you're a Sixer fan, you've been disappointed. He didn't play too many games last year. Now he's going to miss games, an inordinate amount of games already. This is after having left knee surgery in offseason and missing games at the start of this season.
On First Take, Stephen A. Smith pointed out that Paul George has had a history of unavailability since joining Philadelphia. But even he admitted there's a silver lining. If George stays in shape during his suspension and commits to his workouts, he could come back healthy and fresh for the last 10 regular season games and the playoffs. In a wide-open Eastern Conference, a fully rested Paul George could be the difference between a first-round exit and a deep playoff run. But this story is bigger than just basketball. George's suspension came at the worst possible time for the NBA because the league was already facing the biggest integrity crisis in modern sports history. That on October 23, 2025, the FBI held a press conference in New York City that shook the sports world. FBI Director Kash Patel, along with prosecutors, NYPD officials, and Homeland Security agents, announced what they called a historic arrest, one that would change the way people look at professional basketball forever. The scandal involved an active head coach, a current player, the Italian mafia, and criminal schemes that defrauded victims of tens of millions of dollars.
What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing.
In a massive coordinated sweep across 11 states, the FBI arrested over 30 people. At the center of it all were Shanta Billups, Hall of Famer, Finals MVP, and head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, Terry Rozier, starting guard for the Miami Heat, and Damon Jones, former NBA player and assistant coach. All three were arrested on the same morning as part of 2 federal investigations, which prosecutors call the most brazen corruption the league has ever seen. The first operation, called Operation Nothing But Bet, targeted insider sports betting, a scheme that struck at the very heart of fair competition. 6 people were charged with wire fraud and money laundering for using non-public NBA information to place illegal prop bets. They had access to confidential info like player injuries, lineups, rest decisions, and game plans, information the public and sportsbooks didn't have. This info was passed to a network of associates who then bet hundreds of thousands of dollars on unders, betting that players would score fewer points, grab fewer rebounds, or dish out fewer assists than expected. They won these bets repeatedly because they already knew what would happen before the games even started.
In December 2022 and March 2024, these defendants perpetrated a scheme to defraud by betting on inside, non-public information about NBA athletes and teams. The non-public information included when specific players would be sitting out future games, or when they would pull themselves out early for purported injuries or illnesses.
Terry Rozier was at the center of this scheme. On March 23, 2023, while playing for the Charlotte Hornets, he allegedly told people close to him that he would leave the game early due to an injury. His associates, including his childhood friend Iro Lur, then placed over $200,000 in bets on his stats being lower than expected before the game even started. During the game, Rozier played about 9 minutes, then claimed foot discomfort and walked off the court, never returning. The bets paid off big, and prosecutors said the winnings were delivered directly to his home, where the group counted the money together that a doctor who reviewed the game footage found nothing wrong with Rozier on the court. No signs of injury, no limping, no grabbing his foot. Everything looked completely normal.
Terry Rozier played up until just under 3 minutes to go in the first quarter. Here he is making a drive. No hobbling, no grabbing, nothing that looks to seem odd or out of the unusual. With an injury, he's running a bit on the court, seems to be just fine.
Rozier didn't limp, didn't grab his foot, and didn't visit the trainers. He just sat on the bench for almost 5 minutes, looking completely comfortable. There was no urgency or concern about his supposed injury. Then, right before the quarter ended, he suddenly took his shoe off. The timing was very suspicious.
We can see him here sitting on the bench after he's come out of the game. This is with about 2:12 left in the first quarter. And you'd think if there was some foot soreness, maybe you'd be seeking medical help. You'd be having your athletic trainers evaluate you, looking at things, rubbing on your foot. No, Rozier just sits here seemingly carefree, not making any motion whatsoever towards his foot. Next possession down the court, 1:40 left in the game. Still Rozier sitting there comfortably, not making any motion to his supposedly sore and uncomfortable foot.
The doctor explained the scary part of all this. Medical staff cannot prove if a player is faking pain. An MRI can look completely normal, but the player can still feel pain. There are real medical conditions where tests show nothing, yet the player is genuinely hurt. Because of this, when a player tells a medical team they can't continue, the team has no choice but to believe them. That's the official protocol. And that's exactly the loophole the scheme was designed to exploit.
A situation like this, where you have an athlete who's telling you that they have pain and they feel like they can't go, the medical staff has no choice but to believe what they're saying and remove them from the game.
Damon Jones was the inside man for the betting scheme. He allegedly leaked confidential info about Lakers stars LeBron James and Anthony Davis, telling associates when they would sit out or play limited minutes before it became public that in one case, a $100,000 bet was placed based on info Jones gave about Anthony Davis being limited. That bet lost, and the people who placed it demanded their money back from Jones. But the betting scheme was only half the story. The second operation, called Operation Royal Flush, was even more shocking. It involved underground high-stakes poker games rigged with spy-level technology, including hidden devices and cheating tools to manipulate outcomes.